the Photography Online podcast, in partnership with Kingjoy Tripods.
Coming up in our January podcast, we find out if the guys have any photographic New Year's resolutions, we talk about why Kate Winslet learned to use a 100-year-old film camera, and discuss Kodak's decision to pause all film production. We pit our two panellists against each other in our brand new pop quiz, and we decide if the world needs an illustrated children's ABC guide to photography and a shiny new point-and-shoot camera.
And now, please welcome your panellists. A man who sold all of his reflectors because his forehead does a better job naturally. It's James McCormick.
Thank you, King of the Comb Over.
And a man who, when asked what his New Year's resolution was, answered 4K 60p. It's Marcus McAdam.
Well, it's a step up from 1080.
And here to keep them both in check, she's Ruth by name and ruthless by nature. It's only Miss Taylor.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the podcast. Welcome to January and Happy New Year actually to everyone listening as well. I am Ruth, host of the show. This month, as you heard, James and Marcus back in the studio. James looking, I gotta say, slightly hurt by his introduction up there. He's not even saying anything.
Very happy to have some hair in 2025 is a result.
And obviously Marcus in as well. I've been thinking actually, guys, just before we move on, it is a new year. Resolutions is something that I kind of gave up on a long time ago in terms of, I'm going to change this for this year. I don't know if it's getting older or just breaking them a lot, but you guys got any resolutions for 2025?
I do actually, and I wouldn't say it's a resolution as such, but I just want to print more.
Okay, not out of your printer, like just documents and bills and...
Yeah, no, I've got loads of good photos which deserve a place somewhere, and they're never going to get that place if they're just sitting as either negatives or digital files. So I just want to get a little bit more time to do a bit more printing this year.
James, how about you? Have you got any thoughts on improving yourself over the new year? Or not? It doesn't mean to be yourself.
I think the biggest resolution I should have is to prepare better for podcasts and actually ask what the first question's going to be, so I have prepared time to think of an answer. No, but I have to say that printing random nonsense is very important, always has been. So I will continue printing random nonsense, sticking it on a fridge, then when you get bored of it, in a shoebox under the bed. And that will serve the test of time more than any hard drive.
Maybe we can go down the whole fridge magnet route, and then, you could just stick them on your fridge.
Fully. The fridge is covered from tip to toe.
I think it's something that most photographers could probably benefit from, is printing more of their work. And it doesn't really matter how you do it. If you don't have a printer yourself, there's loads of labs that you can just send a file to. You upload it on the website and it arrives in 2 days' time or even the following day. And they do a great service. But, if you want to do a lot of printing, then it probably makes economical sense to buy your own printer. I just know so many people with their own printers who don't print because they find it such a faff.
Yeah, so there's two things really, Ruth. What Marcus is talking about is printing slightly bigger there. So anything from sort of 10.8 A4 up would be sensible, if you're going to do that a lot, to go down a rather horrific tunnel of printing. Horrific to me anyway, but some people really enjoy it. But what I'm talking about is printing 6x4 or 7x5 throwaway pictures, really, that, as I said, go to your fridge, then to a shoebox, and will be around forever.
Most of your photos are throwaway though, James, to be honest.
Thank you very much. It's nice to see in the new year with some joyous cheer from yourself there.
Yeah, welcome.
Next time we come down, James, I expect to see photographs of all of us on your mantelpiece, just, 6x4, whatever you want to do, just something printed out. What boring New Year's resolutions, I got to say. I mean, James just hopping on the Marcus bandwagon there.
Yeah, I thought that was very uncreative, to be fair.
But we want to hear if you guys have got any photography-related New Year's resolutions. Do get in touch. We've actually got a new email address for 2025 for the podcast. It's podcast@mc2photography.com. You can use that to get in touch. I'll mention it a couple more times throughout the show. We do have a bit of some fresh features for 2025. We're keeping some of the good classics as well, including this one, starting off the podcast this month for this year. In the news in 2025, we've got a few good stories for you. We've banged on about Adobe a wee bit in 2024. But they just keep doing things to keep themselves in the news. James, what is this fresh one we've got?
The story is about Adobe's share price falling as their revenue and indeed profit rises. And that's down to investors not believing that Adobe's going in the right direction by pumping time and resources and marketing to its, slightly disillusioned current audience about AI. So, in essence, Adobe's pulling all its eggs in an AI basket, and the stock market doesn't believe that that's the right thing to do. And I have to say that I kind of agree with the stock market on that. And them pushing it hard is a sign that what they want to do is one day monetize it by charging us more money. And I'm not so sure, because investors are quite smart and they'll be looking into that. And I think that you might be getting to a point of saturation where people just think, I'm not going to pay for this. Plus, there will be other options where it's free. So it's a little bit like Adobe's planning ahead, thinking, right, we'll give it to them free now, we'll charge them in the future, and the stock market will believe that our profits are going to go up even more. And the stock market are basically saying, no, we don't believe that's going to be the case.
Yeah, I mean, I tried it once, and it was about 6 months ago, so things may have changed, but I did a property shoot, and when I was photographing the lounge, there was a massive TV on the wall, and the owner said, I don't want that TV shown in the pictures because that's not the TV that's going to be there. In 2 weeks' time, I'm getting a smaller one. And I said, well, does it look the same? He said, yeah, it looks identical, but it's just a smaller TV, so I'm a bit concerned that people are going to expect a massive TV if they see it in the photos. And I said, all right, I'll photograph it anyway. I'll just make it smaller in post-production. So I highlighted the television and just asked AI to make the television smaller. It couldn't do it. You should have seen what it was doing. It was drawing like flowers with vases.
I know. I remember you asking me how to do it, and I didn't respond at all.
It was unbelievably bad. And I just thought, if AI can't do this, then I'm not interested in even experimenting with it.
But that's not really what the story's about, is it? So I think most photographers are on the same page about AI, and I'm not even sure the words artificial intelligence are relevant anyway, really.
No, but the story is about whether Adobe should be pushing it and therefore charging in the future.
Yeah, and the people that really know, and it's the stock market, the people that run the stock markets across the world or gamble on them are bookmakers, and bookmakers very rarely ever get things wrong. So Adobe should take notice.
Yes, absolutely. But my point is that I don't even want to use it when it's free. So there's no chance of me ever paying for it.
All right. Well, we've done also a lot of stories over the past year, our first year on the podcast, on selfie-related stupidity. Sadly, it's not really stopped. In fact, you've got a bit of a 2-for-1 going on this time, Marcus. What's happened?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, these people hadn't listened to our January show last year. So there's been 3 incidents, and they're all linked by trains. Can we put links so that people can actually look at these videos, because obviously this is a podcast and we're talking about something that's very visual here. So can people go and see these videos? Yeah,
absolutely. All the links to all the news stories and the gear and stuff we talk about in the show notes. So head down there if you want to see any of these videos as well.
Okay, so the first one happened in Taiwan last month. It was a 55-year-old lady, which surprised me because you often think about selfie stupidity as being young people, don't you, who are sort of too inexperienced to know better. But this lady has got to the age of 55, so she's presumably not that stupid if she's managed to negotiate the world for that long.
How old are you, by the way?
Well, I'm slightly younger.
Not much, though, and you've made it.
So I theoretically, I could be slightly more stupider. But anyway, when you watch this video, there's a train approaching down a track with a few people milling around. It's going through a kind of like a forest area. And this one lady is so insistent that she wants to stand just right on the edge of the tracks with the train coming, in the background. So she's holding the phone out, taking a photo of herself. The train is behind her, approaching her fast. And she's so engrossed with waiting for the train to get into the right position. And despite everybody else running out of the way sensibly and the driver sounding his horn, she just stands there and just doesn't move. And of course, she's got her back to the train and you can see what's going to happen. The train hits her and it's not, it's not going super fast, but it's not going slow either. So she gets violently thrown to the ground. Luckily, she wasn't seriously injured, but apparently she did receive a fine for trespassing because they were all...
The poor train driver. They're the ones I feel bad for all these.
I know, it's unbelievable. Anyway, moving on to a closely related incident. This one was in Sri Lanka, and it's another video we can put a link to. There's a Chinese girl. Can we see a theme here, by the way? Chinese women. And nothing against Chinese women. I married one once, and I'm with another one at the moment. But anyway, so I've got nothing against them. But
you've got something against one of them. I'd just like to point that out.
Well, yeah, that is true. But that not because she's Chinese or a woman. Anyway, so this girl is standing in an open train door, and it's a high-speed train, and she's leaning out of the train backwards. So she's facing back into the train, but she's holding on to presumably the side of the door frame, and she's leaning backwards, and she's got her head thrown back as well. So all you can see is basically the underside of her chin. And somebody is videoing her. So someone's standing on the train, and they're videoing her, presumably a friend. And all of a sudden, this tree basically it gets entangled with her hair, or vice versa. And she just disappears. She just gets dragged from this high-speed train. And you just think, am I the only one who could see that was going to happen?
Is she all right? Do we know?
She suffered minor scratches and scrapes, apparently.
Oh, jeez.
But she could have been killed. Very, very easily, she could have been killed. And as you're standing there watching this, you're just thinking, she's not looking to see what's coming because she's got her head, she's looking up at the sky.
I tell you what, neither of these people have ever watched, especially the second girl, has never watched a James Bond film. Because as a lad, it was always, Bond had his head out, didn't he? At the very last second, he would just struggle and get back in.
Yeah. But it's just general lack of intelligence. Both of these things. You just think, it's so obvious what's going to happen. You could pause the video before the actual event has taken place, and your prediction would be exactly right. And you just think, what's wrong with these people?
Well, the only thing that's changed in recent times, though, because photographers used to get into trouble all the time for taking risky pictures, as it were. So rather than photographing themselves, they would be photographing something like a train coming towards them and lean out. So it was always a common thing. People used to do it on the tube quite a lot as well, funnily enough, like step between carriages, if you remember. So now the only real difference is people are photographing themselves, which is what, I don't know, makes it even more pointless, really, I suppose.
Yeah, and in another train incident, and this one didn't...
he's off again.
No, this one didn't end so well. This was apparently a professional photographer with a model, and she was standing very close to the tracks, and the idea of the photo was to get a picture of her with a high-speed passing train going behind her, presumably, blurred with motion. This is in Mexico. There's no video for this. It's just a story. But as the train passed, it turns out she was standing a little bit too close, and her clothes got entangled with the train, and she was killed instantly. So the moral of the story here is, don't stand too close to trains. I mean, I would have thought that would be obvious, but apparently it's not. So this is a public safety announcement on the Photography Online podcast. Do not stand close to trains. There, we've done it.
Well, from stupid behaviour to someone who's actually doing things quite well. This is a bit of an unusual one. I'm sure a lot of people are aware of the film that came out semi-recently. Kate Winslet, who was playing Lee Miller in the World War II film, that got amazing reviews, stuff like that. Anyway, she uses a Rolleiflex camera in the film, and I just thought it was quite an interesting... she's been interviewed a few times, obviously, publicity and things, and so many people who are in films and they're using cameras or any other kind of props, they treat them as a prop, and and it's always very aggravating to people who know otherwise, that they don't know what they're doing. So Kate Winslet, Rolleiflex, took the time to actually learn exactly how it works, and I don't know if you guys watched the video.
I haven't seen it, no.
No, I haven't seen it either, but it is certainly something I want to watch.
It was an interesting, but it's just the fact that she took the time to actually learn how to use the camera, even things like she was saying, like when she took a picture in the film, she would hold her breath while she took it, and then in post-production, she would be sitting in, and the guys they'd added breathing in, and she said, why did you add breathing back in? She's like, well, so it sounds natural. She's like, no, take it out again, because anybody who knows anything knows that when you're taking a shot with a Rolleiflex down there, you stop breathing for a bit, and she made them put it back in, and I just really admire admired the fact that she took the time to actually learn properly how to use the camera.
To learn in-body stabilisation, which is what that was. That's the old school version of it. There you go.
Yeah, there's. Are you aware of the film Bridges of Madison County with Clint Eastwood and Meryl Streep?
I've heard of it. Yeah, never seen it.
Okay, a fantastic film ruined by an incredibly bad actor who played, I think it was the son of Meryl. But anyway, that's beside the point. But Clint Eastwood in the story is a National Geographic photographer who's photographing the bridges of Madison County. And he was trained by a professional photographer how to hold the camera and how to stand and everything. So that sounds like it's a similar thing.
It's a very funny thing when you do see it and you see those old-fashioned sort of black and white movies with the press corps, and they're all kind of going... I know people can't see because I'm doing a visual thing where I'm holding cameras up here on a podcast, so not the greatest.
I could do one of those audio things for the blind. James waves his hands violently in the air,
exactly,
side to side, with a large grin on his face.
Absolutely, but even more annoying is these days when you see, I don't know, a sports film or something. Sports photographers just don't hold big lenses like that in the real life. So fair play to Miss Winslet. She seems to have done a pretty good job. I haven't seen the film, but I will at some point when on an aeroplane, probably sitting next to somebody incredibly boring who's going on about, I don't know, Darwin and selfie takers. It would be the perfect film to watch at that point.
All right, I haven't seen it yet either. It's on my list. Maybe in the break, which theoretically people get around about New Year's time. I'll have a shot at that. Anyway, another story we've got. Kodak, back to proper camera stuff. Marcus, what are Kodak up to?
Yeah, so... There's a headline circulating recently. We found this on Petapixel, as we did a lot of the stories for this month. And the headline reads, Kodak ceases all film production. So you can imagine my heart palpitations at that moment. But I didn't have to read much further to breathe a sigh of relief. Basically, what they've done is they've temporarily halted production while they upgrade their filmmaking facilities to cope with increased demand, which doubled between 2015 and 2019 and has presumably increased since then as well. So they've stockpiled reserves, apparently, before they closed the factory down so that there wouldn't be any disruption to supplies. But they're modernising the plant at their factory in Rochester, New York, so they can basically make more film more efficiently. So I think it's all a good sign that film is not only not dead, but it's thriving.
So it's paused for how long, do we know?
I don't know that, but I don't think it's particularly, I think it's probably a month or 6 weeks, something like that.
Okay, and then back bigger than ever.
Yeah, but the other story that I saw recently, which also involves Kodak, is that they're no longer selling movie film to non-movie makers. So one of the things that, obviously 35mm film, which we all put in our cameras, actually started out as movie film, which is why it's got the perforations on it, because it has to run through a camera and a projector at high speed. And they make this stuff in huge reels, and you can bulk buy that up until now anyway, and you can load your own films. So you could buy, say, 500 meters of film, and then you can go into the dark and cut off, and you can spool your own cassettes, and it works out a lot cheaper. If you shoot a lot of film, it can save you probably 40% on buying pre-rolled stuff in the shops. But they've now said that they're not selling movie film anymore to anybody who's not a movie maker, and you have to prove that you've got a license to film in order to buy movie film from Kodak now. Yeah, so it's basically just stopping people from finding a cheaper alternative to shooting film, which is a shame.
Well, I mean, how do you even get a license to film? How do you prove that? I mean, could we get it for the show?
No, I think it's a proper commercial. So, you're not going to be shooting on 35mm film unless you've got a massive budget. And I think if you put in an order to Kodak, they would want to see some documentation now that you had got permission to, there was a budget and it was a proper film, rather than you're just about to disappear off into your basement to spool it onto 35mm cassettes and use it in your Leica.
3 people will be very sad about that entire thing.
You'll be surprised how many people do that, actually, Ruth. So, I mean, you can still do it, but you just can't do it with Kodak film anymore because they've stopped it. But you can do it with other film manufacturers. I believe Ilford do it as well. Okay, well, we'll leave the news stories behind there for this month. We are moving on to a brand new feature for 2025.
The Photography Online Podcast Quiz.
Yeah, we have got some brand new stuff, including this. If you have got extensive knowledge on pop music, this isn't going to help you. We are calling it the Pop Quiz. However, it stands for Photography Online Podcast. Every month we are going to be playing the Pop Quiz, where I ask our two panellists, so this month that is James and Marcus, who are looking slightly, I was going to say freaked out. They look completely unperturbed. I was thinking James has sneaked a look at the quiz questions, but we don't know. We'll see how he gets on. Anyway, you guys can play along as well. We're going to have photography-related questions. The answers wouldn't be revealed until the end. So here's how it works, guys. Okay, take notes, which I know you don't like to do very much. 5 questions. He's got his pencil. 5 questions, 5 rounds. Every round is worth 1 point for the correct or the closest answer, because I thought I'd be kind, and I also thought you probably wouldn't get it right. In the event of a tie, both of you receive a point. The winner gets absolutely nothing, except the satisfaction of knowing that you know more about photography than the other one. Anyway, without further ado, let's play.
Round 1. Multiple choice.
Oh, good. Thank God for that.
He looks slightly freaked out there. All right, multiple choice, round 1. Everybody knows that Apple makes phones, but did you know they also once took a crack at the digital camera market? What was their first model called? Okay, is it the Easy Shot 100, the Quick Take 100, the Pro Capture 100, or the Light Snap 100?
I was hoping one of them was going to be the eye camera.
Yes, I was along that line. I've absolutely not a Scooby-Doo.
Right, can you say those again, Ruth?
Was it the Easy Shot 100, the Quick Take 100, the Pro Capture 100, or the Light Snap 100?
That's only 4.
Can I just ask, Ruth, did you write the other answers to this, to the correct one?
I made this up, yes. Sorry, you're right, there was only 4. That was a mistake. But it gives you more of a chance.
It increases the chances of us getting it right. So we've now got a 25% chance of getting it right rather than a 20% chance.
This is just a nightmare. I can't even remember what she said now. So
I've got my answer.
Okay, one final time,
yes,
James.
Yes, thank you.
Easy Shot 100, the Quick Take 100, the Pro Capture 100, or the Light Snap 100.
Written it down.
You ready?
Done.
Okay, let's move on to round 2.
Round 2. Name the year.
Okay, in what year was the first photograph taken of a total solar eclipse?
Ooh, blimey.
Please.
Okay, so we just have to guess, and whoever gets the closest, right?
You have to guess.
First photo of it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, it's not going to be before 1840 because photography didn't exist.
You're giving James clues, Marcus.
Yeah, I know.
Clues.
First total solar eclipse. You're going to have to edit a lot of blank space out of this film.
Right, let's move on to round 3.
Round 3. Artificial intelligence.
And this is, sorry, I should actually tell you what this is about. This is the AI round. So in this round, I asked ChatGPT, which is an AI bit of software, to describe a photographic object, person, or practice without mentioning the name of the subject. So all I need to do, it's going to be fun, is tell me, what did I ask it to talk about? So here it is. James is looking disgusted already. All right. Photographic subject, object, or person, or practice. Okay.
This is a silent force that holds fast what others would let slip. It is both tether and anchor, a quiet guardian that connects the fragile to the firm, the fleeting to the eternal. Its grip is unyielding, yet it asks for no acknowledgement, working in the background, ensuring balance where none would be found. Its true power lies not in what it does, but in how it does it, so seamlessly, so effortlessly, that its influence is almost imperceptible, like a whispered promise made in the stillness of the night.
Okay.
What the hell is going on?
Okay.
This is AI. I put the name of either a photographic subject, object, practice, or person into AI. I asked it to describe it, which is what you just heard there, without mentioning the name of it. And all you need to do is tell me what I asked it to talk about. I didn't know
you had such romance in you, Ruth, to be honest.
This was AI. This was not me. It's fascinating. AI is getting all romantic.
Yeah, in order for Ruth to get romantic, she has to use AI.
Charming as ever. New year, same Marcus and James. Okay, have you had a guess?
Yeah, I've got my answer.
Okay, James?
Yeah, I've written something down, yeah.
All right, James, this next round might be more for you.
Round 4. Take a wild guess.
All right, well, as the name suggests, this round requires an answer which could be almost anything. So you're unlikely to be able to get it exact, so you need to take a wild guess. So as with round 2, the point will go to whoever gets closest to the answer. And although it's unlikely, if one of you does get the exact answer, there are 2 bonus points to be had. So here we go. Here's the question. Take a wild guess. In 1947, Polaroid introduced its first instant camera, the Model 95. This camera used a unique process that allowed users to produce a finished print. How long did the print take to develop?
Oh, you know what? We did a feature about instant cameras, and I know that I've read this.
I think I know the answer to this. I think I know because I used to get beaten to a pulp as an assistant, and I used to have to keep them. Although the process would have changed since that year, clearly, but used to keep them warm. So it slightly depends upon temperature as well. Yeah,
but this is the guy. I know I can't remember his name, but he invented it because his daughter asked why she couldn't see a photo as soon as he'd taken it, and then he thought, actually, she's got a good point there. Why can't? So he invented the instant photo. And when I was reading, obviously I can't retain this information, but I'm gonna take a wild guess.
Okay, that's what we want. That's what we want. Wild guess. So on to our final round.
Round 5. Where in the world?
Okay, so this final round is as much a geography question as it is a photography one.
Finally.
Oh, James reckons he's going to be good at this. Excellent.
Well, I've got more chance of that than anything else.
Okay, this location will typically be a well-known hotspot for photography, okay? So this landmark is world famous. It's home to the most remote community in the country. Fewer people have walked from one end to the other than have walked on the moon, even although it's under 300 miles long. Temperature can vary over 25 degrees within its boundaries, and it is the reason, here's a clue, that the Federal Aviation Administration exists.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
So, yeah.
Uh-oh.
That is a clue, at least.
Yeah.
Fewer people have walked. It's
the length of it than have walked on the moon.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And it's 300 miles, you said?
300 miles from end point to start point, yes.
I don't understand what planes have got to do with it.
I will explain that.
Yeah, well, I know somewhere that is remote and about 300 miles long.
Right, well, that's a start.
I can guess that.
But Ruth, can I clarify? Are you looking for a country as the answer here?
I am not.
Okay, damn it.
Do you know a 300-mile country?
No, but where in the world? Surely
you said a location. She said a location.
Yeah, the answer is a location. It's not
a photographic hotspot.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're asking for the actual
a well-known landmark
name of the landmark rather than the.
It is a well-known landmark in a country that photographers frequent.
Okay.
Have either of us been there? Have I been there?
I would say at least one of you has been there.
Okay. All right.
Right? You got an answer?
Yes, I do. Yes.
Only because of that last clue. I don't understand what aeroplanes. You said something about aeroplanes or something.
Well, give me a chance. Okay, first question then, which was multiple choice rounds, Apple's first digital camera. We had the choice between Easy Shot 100, Quick Take 100, Pro Capture 100, or the Light Snap 100. So, James, what was your choice?
I just wrote down the word shot or easy shot because I couldn't remember what you said mainly.
Okay, Marcus?
I wrote down Pro Capture 100.
Okay, you are both wrong.
Oh.
It was the Quick Take 100, which was launched in 1994. It was the first colour digital camera you could buy for under $1,000.
Wow.
So this is before they had the whole eye thing going on. So 0 point. What did they say in the Eurovision? Nil point.
Nil point.
Yep.
It's
thanks.
nil point.
So we're off to a flying start then.
Off to a flying start. All right, into round 2. Name the year. The question was, in what year was the first photograph taken of a total solar eclipse?
Can I revise what I've written down?
You can actually if you want. Yeah.
No, I won't. I'll stick with it. I've written down. So you're thinking of close-ups, but actually it could have been This is wrong. I'm going to revise it. 1890.
James has 1890, and Marcus?
I've gone for 1914.
Oh, my word.
1914. Yeah. All right, well, the closest, although still very far off, is James.
Is it really early? Is it really early?
The first photo of a total solar eclipse was taken July 28th, 1851, by Johann Julius Friedrich Berkowski, who was said to be the most skilled daguerreotypist in somewhere in Russia. Kaliningrad now, a Prussian city then, Kaliningrad. So there you go, 1851. Wow. Not long after photography was actually, they obviously thought this is something to capture on film. Yeah. So again, nil point. This is going really well.
No, James gets the point because he's closest.
Oh, sorry, James, sorry. You are right. I'm sorry.
Why am I correcting your mistake when he gets a point anyway?
Yeah, exactly. Keep that to yourself. So James was the closest, but still way off. All right, so into round 3, which was what am I talking about? And this was AI. What did we reckon?
So I put down tripod.
I wrote tripod as well, but it could be hideously wrong.
You are both close. It was a tripod bracket.
Well, we get a point.
Come on.
We get a point for that.
Yeah, no.
What is a tripod bracket?
The bracket that goes, there's camera bracket between the tripod and the...
Oh, the quick release plate.
The quick release plate, sorry, yes. That thing.
Okay. What did you type in?
I did type in tripod bracket, to be fair, but I knew what I was talking about because I actually edited that down a little bit because it was getting too specific. So, I don't know, I'd give you half a point for that.
Yeah.
Do you want half a point?
No, I want a full point. It was talking about rigidity constantly.
At one point, I thought it was going to be a gimbal, but then you carried on as it went on. I thought, no, it's not a gimbal. It's because it says effortlessly, and gimbals are not effortlessly. So.
No. It was the tripod bracket. I'm sorry, the quick release plate. All right, round 4. This was take a wild guess, and I was asking you what how long the first print took to develop from Polaroid, the first instant print from Polaroid.
I think I know. It's got to be a minute.
Marcus?
I've got 15 minutes.
Okay, James, 60 seconds. 60 seconds, you're right. Well done, James.
Damn it.
15 minutes?
Well, I thought that, it's still a minute now. If you
enough
get a
time
Polaroid film,
to slip down to snappy snaps and get it done in 15 minutes.
No, but if you do it now, it's 60 seconds. So I thought, well, it's got to be longer than that if it was the first one.
Yeah, I suppose. Anyway.
Yeah, so the final question was where in the world, and I described a landmark to you, which threw you both. Any ideas?
Well, I've got Grand Canyon.
I've got Grand Canyon, but I think it might be Victoria Falls.
Are you choosing that, James?
No, I'm going to stick with Grand Canyon because if I go with Grand Canyon, I beat him regardless.
Oh, you're so pathetic.
Anyway, you're both right. It was Grand Canyon.
Oh, was it? What's the aviation thing?
The FAA.
So apparently in the 1950s, commercial airplanes used to take detours over the park to give passengers a look. And in 1956, 2 planes collided. There was no survivors, so it led the federal government to create the FAA.
Ah.
But that was the clue there, James, because FAA means it has to be the US.
Oh, yeah, it does, yeah, because it's different over here, yeah. It's the CAA over here, isn't it? Civil.
So the FAA is only for US airspace.
No, I just disregarded that and thought about the mighty Zambezi, and when she said I'd been there.
I didn't say you'd been there, I said one of you had been there, which I knew Marcus had. I wasn't sure if you had or not.
I know, Ruth, you might have said that, but I barely listened. Anyway, it doesn't matter because I win.
Anyway, what were the scores on the doors?
So the scores on the doors, James 3 points, Marcus 1.5.
Oh.
So Marcus lost. James won. James has got. Has that cheered you up, James?
Immensely, more than you could possibly know.
I let him win just because he was having a bit of a grump.
You let him win. Anyway, there we go. It's our new feature for 2025. We'll see how it goes. 1.5 and 3 is not bad, to be fair, out of a total of potentially, 6 or 7. It wasn't just 5 because we were going to give double points for exact wins.
The only takeaway from that is how far wrong we were with the total eclipse picture. That's a long way out because I originally had 1910 and then I thought, because I was imagining it would be a close-up, you see, but of course it doesn't have to be a close-up.
No.
You just said a picture.
Yep,
so I'm guessing it was something much wider. So
it was quite far away.
Yeah. So there we go.
So well done. And if you guys played along at home, let us know how you got on. If you managed to score higher than James, do let us know in the comments. And also if you'd like to submit any questions, because we'll take all the help we can get here for any of the rounds, then by all means do feel free to suggest them to us. We do want to make this your show as well. So if you've enjoyed that, we will be back with a new set of questions and a new set of panellists, hopefully.
What do you mean, hopefully?
Month. So there you go. Hopefully. We want to change it up. Honestly, you guys have been on for at least 2 months in a row.
The Photography Online Podcast, in partnership with Kingjoy Tripods.
So we are so excited to have Kingjoy helping us to make this year's shows possible. One thing I think is worth mentioning here, actually, is that we approached them because we all use their products. We wanted to have a brand that we could get behind, not because they were paying us, but because we truly believe in their products. Kingjoy will also be providing a couple of big prizes over the coming months, so we're really excited about that. Keep your ears pricked. Marcus, I know you were the first of us all to discover Kingjoy. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I previously been using another brand of tripods. I've mentioned them, Gitzo. And I just got fed up. I just got, no, it's true, James. I just got fed up with spending £600-700 on tripods and them lasting about 18 months and then being irreparable. And so you have to buy another one. And when you're spending that much money, it should last a lifetime, or certainly, 10 years plus. And yes, I use it, more heavily than the average person, etc. But it's still no excuse for a tripod to fall apart after, only a bit more than a year. And that had happened to me 3 times. And it also happened to other people I know. So, I know it's happened to Harry. I know it's happened to James. It's happened to a lot of customers that I come into contact with. So it wasn't just a fluke that I was, or just, bad luck that I was having all this, negative experience with them. So I was on the lookout for another tripod, and by coincidence I bumped into another photographer on a hillside, and he was using a tripod which looked like a Gitzo, but I noticed it had a different brand on it. It was Kingjoy, and I said, I've never seen this tripod before, what's it like? And he said, it's fantastic. So on his recommendation, I tried to find where I could get one, and it turns out there was nowhere in the UK that imported them or distributed to them. So I contacted the manufacturer directly and said to them, look, I'm really interested in buying one of your tripods. I do this show and everything else. And they said, well, we'll send you one if you promote it. And I said, well, I'm not going to promote it because I want to use it for 3 or 4 years before I know if it's any good or not, because all tripods are good when they're new, or most of them are anyway. It's seeing how long they last for. So they agreed to send me a tripod, and I used it for 3 years, and I abused it more than I would if it was one that I'd bought by throwing it in the sea and covering it in sand and what have you. And I still use that same tripod today. It's 7 years old now, and it still works as well as the day it came out the box. So I've got no hesitation in recommending Kingjoy as just being fantastically made tripods that will last a lifetime.
Yeah, and he's got the rest of us onto them as well. I mean, if you're interested in seeing what is available in the Kingjoy professional lineup, do check out the Photography Online shop if you're in the UK, or go to kingjoy.com for international sales, or to find out your nearest dealer. We will have links again to those in the show notes. All right, well, we are just about at the halfway point. We're going to hear from
listeners from an unlikely location.
So an update on the clean sweep of US states is that we still haven't actually managed it. We all seem to be 3 or 4 states short. Last month, despite gaining listeners in North Dakota and Arkansas, we had nobody from Alaska, Montana, Mississippi, or West Virginia tuning in. So if you know anybody in any of those states who's got an interest...
Ruth, we'll deal with Alaska. We'll deal with Alaska because Marcus and I have an old friend up there, don't we? So I will message her, or her now grown-up daughter, which is even more worrying. That's how old we are. And we'll get them listening.
In that case, Montana, Mississippi, or West Virginia, get in touch. Do them a favour, make them aware of our existence. Other locations, though. Last month, our most popular non-English speaking country was Germany. Guten Tag. Closely followed by India, which I haven't actually figured out. Anybody know how to say hello in Indian? Because it's not Indian.
Well, there's several languages in India. So
well, I think we'd go with Hindi. We'll come back with one for next month, Hindi, Ruth. You'll go for Hindi next month.
Okay. But this month's listeners from an unlikely location are the 2 that have popped up from Guatemala. If you are one of those, then hola. Wherever you're listening from, though, we are so glad to have you as part of our worldwide audience. Do get in touch, as we say. Let us know about yourself. We're always interested in who's listening. Hop on to mc2photography.com for ways to get in touch, or as I mentioned earlier, you can email us podcast@mc2photography.com, or of course leave a comment on whatever platform you are listening on. And a big thank you to those that have left comments. A couple of people leaving comments on the show, the Photography Online, the main show on YouTube as well recently. recently. Photography by Leven. Thank you, he said, to the entire team, possibly she, I'm not sure, for an incredible and absolutely amazing work and your dedication. The best photo channel on earth, period. Which is kind of a nice way to start off the year. Thank you.
It's true as well.
Don Ridgway, I just wanted to mention Don Ridgway 7269. He was talking about the Dolomites feature, which was on the last show in December, and he was just reckoning it looked like a lot of hard work, and he said, do you offer Dolomites for duffers or pinnacles for poop outs? Which I reckon we should get him to do some of our our publicity stuff. We could do, if we ever run another trip, Don, another comfort trip, we'll maybe rebrand it or rename it or put it in brackets somewhere. Dolomites for duffers. And if anyone's interested in the less strenuous version, we'll stick that up. Anyway, Stuart got in touch via email. He said, I enjoyed the December podcast last night. I saw at one point you were talking about model releases, etc. You remember this from last year, guys. Last month. We were chatting about this and how sometimes you had to sign a release for the studio. As you said, it's ludicrous. He says, I think I can go one better. A friend of mine is a journalist and photographer who has worked over the years in many war zones, including Ukraine. He was recently contacted by a television company who wanted to use some of his photographs but said they couldn't use them without model releases. Picture the scene. You're in a war zone full of people shooting at each other, and possibly you two. You're taking pictures and you're supposed to ask them to sign a model release. Needless to say, he said the TV company wouldn't be using my friend's pictures, which is absolutely crazy. If you haven't listened to that conversation, it was on last month's podcast, December 2024. Have a wee listen to that.
I think that just goes to show, Ruth, what a demanding and challenging job being a photographer is. Because lots of people think you just go around taking photos, and you don't. There's so much more to it, you know. So asking people to sign a model release form before they shoot the next person.
If you're a photojournalist in a war zone, then that is definitely true. We always do enjoy your feedback. Do keep it coming. As I said, get in touch any of those ways I just mentioned. All right, we are going to move on to our next feature.
It may be new. It may even be exciting. But does the world really need it?
All right, back with our gear feature. First of all, though, I've got to mention, because it is January, did anybody get anything from last year's segment for Christmas? Digital picture frame, James? Did anybody send you one?
I did get a card through the door from you, though, Ruth. I would say this morning, but as this is going out in January.
Arrived a wee bit late then, did it? Yeah, that's the second-class mail for you.
It did, yeah.
I couldn't afford a first-class stamp, so...
Thank you very much. Do you send Marcus a card, by the way?
I can't say I did, actually.
No. Excellent.
No.
So I'm used to it, James. I'm used to you being the favourite one.
All right, well, some more gear-related stuff. Maybe you can do a swap if you got something you didn't particularly enjoy at Christmas. This first one is absolutely fantastic, I reckon. Would do both of you at least. Maybe I'll give you a late Christmas present. This is a kids' photography ABCs book, which is basically a gentleman decided to do a child's book on photography, and it's things like A is for aperture, B is for... I don't know what B was
bokeh.
for, actually. I never got that for. Bokeh.
Yeah.
And how to pronounce it as well. Is that how you pronounce it? It's one word I never could quite figure out. Bokeh?
Yeah, well, I mean, the jury's out because obviously it's a Japanese word, so...
Is it a Japanese word? Is it even, did they not just make it up?
No, I think it's a Japanese word anyway. But you'd have to ask the Japanese how they pronounce it to get the correct pronunciation. So it's a bit like when you go to the US and everyone calls it Nikon. It's not Nikon, it's Nikon, because Nikon is an abbreviation.
It's a Nikon, and it's made of aluminium, whatever there is, they say.
Aluminum.
But yeah, so things get mispronounced all over the place. But my understanding is that the way that the Japanese would pronounce it is bokeh.
Okay.
And it's not bouquet or that's some flowers. Okay, so it's not that. So I think it's bokeh.
So you do know the name for a bunch of flowers. So get on that, Marcus, and
Well, listen, Ruth. When you buy me a better birthday cake than James gets, or you send me a Christmas card, then you might get a bouquet of flowers.
Oh, he's getting personal. That Colin the Caterpillar cake was which recommended, I will have you know. I did my research before you got that thing. Anyway, this is a fabulous book. If you've got any kids in your life, or new photographers, or even experienced photographers, because as I recall from the show a couple of years ago, we used to do a segment called School's Out. And it was with Marcus's daughter, who was around about 7 or 8 at the time. And it was explaining the basics of photography in a way a child could understand it. People loved it because it took it all the way down to the basics. They got to watch it kind of pretending it was for the kids, but actually learning a lot themselves. This book is kind of like that. So it's called, is it called A is for Aperture? I think that's actually what it's called.
It is called that, yeah.
And it's got some other things underneath each one as well. It could be A is for Avedon. Is it Richard Avedon? A is for Adobe, I think, was in there as well, which may not feature in the re-edition.
Ansel Adams was in there.
Ansel Adams, yeah.
So it's a fun book with some nice illustrations. So have a wee look at that.
We should mention the author, which is a guy called Todd Vorenkamp, who teaches photography to adults with learning disabilities. So I guess that makes sense as to where this has come from. So it's very illustrative and very straightforward.
Do you know what, Marcus? Because do you remember via yourself? I did a little bit of that, photographing children and teaching them a bit of photography. And when I saw this, I thought this would be perfect for that. Not only perfect for that, I thought even for general adults, this is so well illustrated. It's so simple.
Yes.
Just the illustrations are what really make it, to be honest. But it's fantastic. It's one of the best books I've seen in a long, long time.
You could buy this for an adult who was just getting into photography, and they would certainly learn lots from it.
They would learn a lot. Yeah.
But anyway, it's $14.99 for a paperback version or $4.99 for a Kindle version. But you can't get a Kindle version.
No.
You need, and it's a shame they don't do a hardback. I think a hardback would be the perfect way to do it. But anyway,
that's next year's Christmas present sorted out. Anyway, for somebody, get it now.
It's not common that we say yes, the world does need this, but that's one of the ones. So.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Big tick for the kids' photography book. All right, well, the next item is not a physical item. It's a piece of software, which is not something we do very often in this section. But we thought it was worth it because obviously we talk a lot about filters, polarizing filters specifically being something you cannot replicate or duplicate in post. What's been happening though, James? What's this new thing?
So basically it's a new tool, a new removal tool that aims to save your travel photos, according to this article. But actually it's about photographing through glass. So it's about a piece of, I suppose, AI software that removes reflections from your pictures that Adobe are bringing out. It has its uses, there's no doubt about it. And I remember, I think we did a bit of filming with Harry photographing something underwater. Was that at a zoo? It was at Chester Zoo, I think.
Yes, and we've never actually used that.
Oh, did we not put that out?
No, not yet. I mean, it might come out, but we obviously did a feature at Chester Zoo, and I think we also did the reflection thing with the penguins as well.
Yeah, that's right. So it is useful, actually. So basically what it does, Ruth, is if when you look through a window, you see yourself or you see things that if the room's got something that's brighter in it than is outside, you will see it reflected in glass. Mm-hmm. Simple as that. So what this tool does is it scans across the image and it removes anything. So basically it's adding contrast to an area, it's removing a piece of, something that's reflected. It's one of those things that it will have its uses for sure, but you're better off solving the problem at the time. So open the window or find a different vantage point.
Yeah, exactly. This just supports my theory that AI is to aid stupid people rather than people who have got a bit of talent.
I mean, there will be instances, Ruth, where this is possible. So the bit which because I'm such an avid viewer of the show that I hadn't realised it hadn't gone out yet about Harry photographing penguin through a piece of glass. Now, there was no other way to photograph them under the water at that point. So what Harry had is a big flexible lens hood, basically. It's a rubberised lens hood, and you put it on the front of your camera, and then you put that flush to the glass, and it eliminates all reflections. So it will do the same job that this tool will. So there would be an instance where you wouldn't necessarily carry that around with you all the time. So yes, it has its uses, but in the end, try and just use your brain and figure a way out without using tools.
But is this going to lead to workshops where, just like with the filters, the NDs, people are just going to go, oh, I'll take a picture of a river or a wet forest, and I'll just sort it out later?
That's a very good point. Yeah, that is a good point. What you're saying is it leads to laziness, and yes, it will lead to that. There's no doubt about that. And that is a shame because you might be stuck in the picture Adobe are using is, I don't know, it's a Swiss chalet or something. I think, I can't really tell where it is, but you don't need to take that picture from there. The photographer didn't need to take it from a piece of glass. They could have just gone outside and stood in the field. I mean, it's such a joke.
This is the thing though, James, because putting reflections aside, okay, even if reflections didn't exist on glass, you're still having to photograph through the glass, which is never going to do anything to the quality of the image. So the reflections are kind of irrelevant. Just don't shoot through glass. That's the answer.
But people do sometimes. They might shoot, like say if you're out doing street and you see an interesting, say someone leaning against a bus window, asleep with rain on the window or something like that.
But that's a creative tool then. You're using the reflection as a creative tool. Hopefully you are, anyway.
Yeah, and you want the reflection in that.
To be honest, Ruth, I can see myself using this. I can think of a particular shot. One of the last pictures I took at the end of 2024, whatever the year was last year, forgotten already. And it was of one building from another building. And I probably could have got that angle by going up on the roof or doing something, but I shot it through glass and I manually tidied it up. And this software would save me time like that. But, that was a commercial picture and time is money. Those usual cliches apply. In the end, if I really wanted that picture to be better, I would have been better using my feet and solving it with my feet, that particular problem. So, or using it creatively.
Okay, so does the world need it, do we reckon?
The world does need it, yes, because I'm not against the advancement of Adobe and its software and the general, putting aside AI, the AI argument, I'm not against the advancement and making it accessible, but the world needs it, but it has to be heavily caveated with what Marcus was saying, is don't let it distract from your creativity and using your feet and using your brain. That's the most important thing. It's not a problem solver.
Okay, so reflections, not an issue with this next item we've got here, though. This is a bit of an unusual one. We talk quite a bit about tripods, things like that, and what can you really do to improve it these days. But a three-legged thing have come out with a new gadget or gizmo or whatever we want to call it. Who wants to talk about this, Marcus?
So what this is it's a window clamp. So it basically goes on top of your car window. So if you're sitting in the driver's seat or the passenger seat, you can wind the window down.
So don't take it through the glass.
Yeah, so you're not taking it through the glass. You can wind the window down partially. So, as long as there's a bit of window sticking up from the door, this clamp basically goes over the top of the glass and then you tighten it up and then you can fix your camera to the top of this clamp. Now, that's all very well. And I can see it would be useful for people doing, safari wildlife, and you're driving around in a Jeep or something, and then you see something and you want a steady base to put your long lens on. But when you break it down, it's actually a very simple, device, but it costs £35 just for the clamp that goes onto the thing. But you can't attach your camera to that. You need the other bit, which puts it up to £100.
But when you're in your car and it's clamped to your window, it does come in matte black or moss green, so the wildlife won't notice the fact that you're in a car.
So you can have your camouflage clamp on your white car.
No, it's all right. I mean, these clamps of sorts to clamp to bits of your car, windows, doors, whatever, have been around for donkey's years. I mean, the old way of doing it would be to use a beanbag, basically.
Yep.
Put that over the window. So it's all right. It's perfectly reasonable. It's perfectly usable. And I think you can get the clamp, and more, rather than buying, you could use your existing tripod head, probably. It would fit to it, looking at it. So, yeah, it's not a bad idea, and there's nothing wrong with it overly. But funnily enough, when you read the blurb, it does talk about so that you don't have to get out of the car and suffer the elements. That's the selling point. I mean, really, the selling point is actually, I think, more down the wildlife route, really, than anything else.
Yeah, so we've got Adobe saying, don't worry, you don't have to go outside. You can now shoot through windows, and we'll solve that problem for you. And then you've got three-legged things saying, yeah, don't get out the car. We'll solve this problem. What's the human race going to be like in 100 years' time?
I can see what it was like 10,000 years ago on this particular Zoom call.
But do you think we're going to de-evolve and not have legs in several generations?
Well, we have a shutter button finger. That's the key thing.
Yeah, we'll just have one finger, enough to press the shutter.
So you can take a picture and pick your nose. Job done.
Well, as I said, all these things are going to be on the show notes. We've got a couple more to get through before we end, though. This is the Nano Photography. It's got a very uninspired name. The Nano Electronic Blower. It's I don't even know what it is. It's like, save using a lens cloth, or save, giving away puff to your filter. I don't know. What is this? Who wants to go on this one?
Okay, so my understanding is that it's an electronic version of the kind of like the well-known rocket blower.
The bulb ones.
Yeah, they call it a rocket blower because it looks like a rocket. And so no longer do you have to physically move your fingers, because this one, All you need to do is charge it up with a USB charging point, and you just have to press a button. So it just makes your life so much easier, you know, because I always found that sort of pumping action to be very, very tiresome. I'd have to go home and have a lie down after cleaning a lens with a rocket blower. So this solves all the problems.
Do you know, I've just scrolled down on the page and they do, because the nano version is the one you're looking at and you probably haven't scrolled down. The good news is that you can get a BB2, I don't know what that is, but I do know that it's £115 just to blow on your lens. I tell you what, for £115, I'll come round and blow on your lens for you.
James, I got a couple of £100 for Christmas from my auntie. So I reckon...
From your auntie? Do you want me to go and blow on your auntie?
No. I'm going to pay you £150 to come and blow on my lenses, because I think that's money well worth spending.
I just noticed further down the page they've got the proper ones you put on the floor for the models and the hair. You could try it, see how strong it is. Use it for, you know, hair flowing in the wind kind of effects.
I don't think it's going to be that strong. You'd have to be very close.
Don't let Ruth scroll any further, because she will want wind in her hair as well as her auto cue for all those links. There's 4 people with reflectors as it is.
This is what will happen, guys. So in order to get a model's hair blown off her face, you're going to have to get so close enough that the actual blower is going to be in the photo. But then Adobe are going to come out with some software to remove the blower from your photo. We've got it. I mean, you know, you can see where this is going.
All right, we'll use the lens cloth, which seems to work perfectly well. Anyway, we have been talking about Kodak already in the podcast. They've got some new merchandise out. I'm sorry, merch, as the kids say now, merch. No film as yet, as we mentioned, but they keep releasing Kodak merch and doing collabs with various people. They've got a whole bunch of new stuff, which is really, I don't know, I know it's kind of gone Christmas now, maybe for next year, guys, our birthday presents. I saw Kodak have actually got gold lockets, if you fancy looking like, I don't know, who wears gold lockets these days? Chavs.
Can you put something inside it?
You can't. Why? Would you put something inside it?
No, because for me, a locket is something that you put something inside, like a photo or...
A lock of hair.
You obviously don't frequent the jewellery pages, so along with your bouquet, which you're going to start doing, jewellery is another place you can start getting more familiar with. So the Kodak locket, if you want to kind of meet them halfway...
Let's don't encourage him any further, because if he buys a locket and a bouquet of flowers, his partner's just going to drop dead of a heart attack. I mean, she really would.
This is great. My auntie's going to say, how did you spend your £200? And I'm going to say, well, I bought Ruth a bouquet of flowers, I bought my partner a locket, and the other £115 I spent on James coming to blow on my lenses.
All right, well, anyway, Kodak they've got some fun stuff. Even, I mean, the point here is it's ridiculous stuff. They've got like a skateboard deck, they've got obviously baseball caps, they've got motorsports jackets, all the rest of it. Besides that locket, why do Kodak keep releasing random non-photography related things, do you reckon? I mean, it's a thing. Is it just because are they becoming a brand that's like...
Yeah, no, they're definitely becoming a brand, and it's definitely... Is it Generation Z or whatever it is? It's a thing. So whatever that is, but people of that rougher age group are definitely embracing film and embracing wanting to look like, I don't know, we should get these jackets. They're a very nice bomber jacket. I'm just looking at it. We should get them, and then we could look like the Backstreet Boys are back.
I think, James, if you carry on saying Generation Z instead of Gen Z, you're going to be so far removed from it. You'll be like Generation BC.
I don't know what it is these days. Anyway, there's some fun stuff on there. And again, show note links to the article, but I think I'll change it and we'll put it onto the actual page where you can go and buy stuff. That's where the Kodak locket is, the skateboard deck if you fancy being down with the kids in Generation Z, or whatever James calls them these days. Beanies. There's actually a side bag. Oh, do you know what, James? That would make you cool. One of these side bags that kids
what?
wear these days. Cool.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I know you've not heard that word before.
Do you know what? Actually, I was thinking just this morning, okay, the word cool has never gone out of fashion.
Well, no, true. But I think the only reason that it stayed in fashion is because like the aunties and uncles and parents say it and their kids learn it. I think if we didn't keep it going...
Yeah, but there's words that I say, when I say it, my daughter goes, oh, Dad, you just sound so cool.
Well, give us an example. Go on.
Well, I know I'm not going to give you any examples because I can't think of any. But
groovy.
But the word "cool," it you've got modern pop songs. You hear that? That's what made me think about it. And you've got songs from the 1960s which are basically saying "cool." So it's never gone out of fashion. It's such a great word.
Well, now that you've endorsed it, it's probably going to go out of fashion. All right. Anyway, speaking of a resurgence of old school stuff, Panasonic have recently released a brand new, never thought I'd say this, brand new point and shoot camera. We've talked about this recently on the podcast over the last year about how point and shoots have unexpectedly, completely taken the brands by surprise, become very fashionable.
And this is another Gen Z thing.
Yeah, this is another thing. They, like us, were probably, not on with what the kids were up to. But anyway, they've released a brand new camera. Who had a wee look at this?
Well, can I go first as a millennial?
Yeah, which millennium though, James?
Yeah, thank you. Well, I associate with Queen Victoria, so I think it's very simple, Ruth, with this. It's here today and it will be gone tomorrow, these point and shoots. But if it's, if you pardon the pun, a bit of a bridge to getting people into proper photography and away from their phones, not that there's anything wrong with phone photography at all, but if it does encourage people to think about focal lengths, which you can't really do on your phone, and control of shutter speed and aperture and all of those things, then it's good. I doubt they will last more than a few years, but you never know. But it also makes me think about whether we invest in this or whether, because I can see these being worth a bit more money in the future. If you bought the right one now and kept it boxed, I can reckon it'd be worth a fortune in the future.
Do you reckon? Because I've got point and shoots lying in the cupboard nobody wanted to chuck out, and you just don't use them.
Yeah, I think if you buy the right one, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
Let's look at some of the specs of this camera, because it's a good looking camera. I don't know if you've seen it.
I have, yeah. It looks very good, yeah.
From the front, the word Leica is almost as big as the word of Lumix, because it's got a Leica lens on it. But the lens on it is a 30 times optical zoom, which is basically a 24 to 720 millimeter lens, which is a huge range, although it's f6.4 at the long end. So good luck trying to hold a 720 millimeter f6.4 lens steady. But you can always tripod it, I suppose. It's 20 megapixels. It also records video at 4K or 120 frames if you want to do standard HD and slow motion. It starts shipping in mid-February, so next month, and it costs £469, which I thought was actually quite a reasonable price for a camera like that.
No, it's an all right looking thing. Yeah, no, it's all right. But I just, like I said, the only benefit I can see is that as a sort of genre is that it will encourage people to pick up bigger cameras and therefore explore their creativity more, because you're still limited with creativity with this camera, really.
Yeah, the only thing that I think is a bit of a nonsense is the fact that they've called it a different name for the US market as they have for the European market. I hate it when they do that.
Well, you just said shipping instead of postage as well, so you've been just thought I'd pick you up on that.
Yeah, okay. I'll take that one on the chin. But in the US, it's called the Lumix ZS99, and in Europe, it's called the TZ99.
Does that be Z in the US, or would it be Z?
It would be Z. It would be ZS99, and in Europe, it would be the TZ99. But why can't they just give it the same name?
I don't know.
So much easier.
I don't know.
Canon do this all the time with their cameras, and it's
But at least Canon have they have an actual word for the American version, like the Rebel.
Yeah, I know, but
and it was 400D, where they've just changed the letters.
But it's really annoying when you have a workshop customer who hasn't had their workshop yet, and they're from the US, and you're asking them what camera do they have, and they say, "Oh, I've got a Rebel 4i or something," and you think, "Well, what camera is that?" And you have to go online and Google it and find, "Oh, it's a 7D." Can you just please give everything the same name? It just causes so much confusion. Apart from that, I think it's a good idea.
All right, well, we'll see what happens in a couple of years' time, if it's still worth some money. It is a very nice looking camera, actually. I particularly like the way the screen actually flips up right on top of it as opposed to out to the side, which is quite cool. Makes it look like an old Mamiya or something. Anyway, show notes, get the links for all of those items in there. Now, normally we finish on this feature, but we're adding I'm going to call it a mini feature up front, just so the guys are aware that they don't get to rant for 15 minutes.
Retail regrets. Oh, no. It's only money.
So this is a new feature where you tell us all about your photography purchases that you've made which have been mistakes. So maybe you bought a product which never lived up to what it promised, or maybe you've just bought something in a moment of madness which you were never going to use and never have. We want you to share your retail regrets with the world so that others don't make the same mistakes. And to start it off, we're going to discuss our own retail regrets, but for all the future shows, we do want to be hearing from you, so please do get in touch. podcast@mc2photography.com, or comment on whatever platform you're listening on. Marcus or James, who has got a retail regret that has been rankling them?
Well, I've got one that immediately springs to mind, and this was a product that I bought, and it's actually a good product, so it's not as if it's a bad product, but I bought a pancake lens thinking, yeah, I'll use that, and I've never used it once.
I remember this. We bought it thinking it'll be low profile, be lightweight for carrying for filming, right?
Absolutely, and it's probably 3 or 4 years ago I bought it. I've never used it once, and I think it's a great lens, but I just don't use it, and so it just sits on the shelf gathering dust, and it wasn't expensive. I think it was about £120, but it's still £120 that I didn't need to spend.
Yeah, no, I have the same lens, funnily enough, as you know.
And do you use it?
Well, I don't use it that often, but sometimes if I'm wandering around, which I don't really often do, to be honest, with a 400mm lens photographing wildlife, and I hate carrying bags, so I'd just rather carry the lens on the body on a monopod. Then I would put that in my pocket in case, I don't know, a unicorn pops out at the end of a rainbow and 400's a little bit too long. So I would use it for that.
So you would jump from 400 to your 40mm backup?
Yeah, that's the only two. So that when I did that whole project about Richmond Park, when I used to live there, those were the two lenses that virtually the whole book was shot on those two lenses.
Interesting.
I'm going to make a prediction here, Ruth, and that is that it won't be long before someone mentions a fisheye lens, because I think a fisheye lens is one of those pieces of equipment that lots of people buy. They go out and use it maybe once or twice, 3 times if they're lucky, and then they never use it again, because it's one of those novelty things that you think it's great in principle, and then the novelty wears off really, really quickly, and then it just sits on the shelf gathering dust.
No, mine went to Ford's.
Your pancake lens or your fisheye?
The fisheye, I used to have one, and I had it I bought it for a very specific job that I was doing, and then it sat around for about 2 years after that doing absolutely nothing and went straight to Ford's.
Yeah, I think a travel tripod as well will get lots of people saying, I spent £150 on this so-called travel tripod and it fell apart on day one.
But my biggest regret, Ruth, is...
Retail regret, James. Don't go down the wrong route here. Yeah.
My biggest regret in life? Oh, where would I start?
No.
How long have we got?
Yeah, getting involved with us would probably be high on the list.
Good, top. No, my biggest retail regret, apart from what I'm wearing now, is selling old camera gear. I wish I'd kept it. And I know... I can't even remember. Marcus has got some of it. So.
You keep on mentioning this, James. Okay.
Yeah, but you have
implying that I've got some of your old camera.
Well, I don't know what you've got and what you haven't got.
I've got one lens. Okay, I've got one lens. Which
so you say. So he says.
You lent it to me. And then you sold all your gear. Well, let me finish. You lent it to me. You then sold all your gear, and I thought, well, there's no point in giving him that back now because he doesn't even have a camera to use it on. So I've just kept it.
Just kept it being the optimum words. No, I regret not keeping things.
Okay, it's going to be boxed up and sent back down to James for his birthday.
I don't want it. You can keep it. No, I don't know how you make a decision on when to sell gear or not, because it's a difficult one. So I've got mirrored cameras now, and if I expanded my range of mirrorless cameras, would I keep my mirrored cameras? Yeah, I for sure would. But selling gear and the right time to sell it is a difficult one. So I do have regrets about some of the cameras I've sold in the past.
Well, we would love to hear from you guys if you've got retail regrets. As I said, get in touch, leave a comment, email, whatever you want to do. But James segued very nicely there into just letting you know what is coming up on the next Photography Online YouTube show, which is in February. We are going to be telling you how best to sell your unused or unwanted gear. So not necessarily deciding what is unwanted or unused, but how best to sell it, which is not a bad way to start the year, possibly. The Great British Icons Challenge as well, of course, starting off every show with that. The team are setting off to shoot a lighthouse in February, and Marcus will be out as well in the field with a big camera in Analog Affairs. So that is all coming up in February's show. We are going to finish off there, I reckon. That was our January show. New format. Let us know what you thought. Let us know how you got on with the quiz, various things like that. As I said, links to all of the stories we mentioned, the gear as well, are in the show notes. So do check those out. Marcus and James, thank you so much for being our panellists for today. I would say two fresh panellists. We're not sure who it's going to be yet. See who's here, who's off gallivanting. But until then, take good care, and most of all, take good photos.
You've been listening to the Photography Online podcast in partnership with Kingjoy Tripods.